My business partner stole my fortune and reputation. My quiet comeback left him bankrupt and alone. There are moments in life when the world expects a man to crumble. Moments when the sheer weight of injustice should force him to his knees, tears streaming, spirit broken. This was one such moment for Kalen Vance. The air in the opulent conference hall thrummed with an almost palpable energy, a symphony of excited chatter and hushed anticipation. Crystal chandeliers, sparkling like captured constellations, cast a warm, golden glow over the impeccably dressed attendees. On the stage, bathed in the blinding glare of spotlights, a massive screen proudly displayed the triumphant logo of Apex Innovations. Every detail of the scene exuded success, power, and the promise of a glorious future. On that very stage, under those blinding lights, stood Silas Thorne, Kalen's former business partner. A charismatic, almost predatory smile played on Silas's lips as he gestured grandly to the audience. He basked in the glow of what he believed was his ultimate victory, the acquisition of a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, built, ironically, on the ashes of Kalen's dreams. Silas was declaring himself a titan, a visionary, a man who had conquered the impossible. His voice, amplified by the state-of-the-art sound system, resonated with absolute self-assurance, filling every corner of the vast auditorium. As Silas's gaze swept across the room, taking in the rapt faces of investors, media moguls, and industry titans, it briefly, almost dismissively, landed on Kalen, standing quietly at the very back. Kalen remained almost unnoticed, a silent observer amidst the roaring applause. His expression was unreadable, a faint, almost imperceptible tilt of the head, lacking any trace of anger or despair, just a profound stillness. Silas saw a man who had lost everything, his company, his fortune, his name. He saw a specter of his past, a discarded relic, a cautionary tale. What Silas didn't see, what he couldn't possibly fathom, was the quiet storm brewing within Kalen Vance. Silas was celebrating his empire, utterly unaware that its very foundations were already compromised, meticulously undermined by the man he thought he had utterly destroyed. A close-up on Kalen's eyes would reveal a flicker of something knowing, almost amused, a silent acknowledgement of the impending shift. The sound of excited chatter, the triumphant music, all faded into the background of his mind, replaced by the rhythmic, deliberate sound of a ticking clock. Kalen's quiet confidence wasn't born of delusion, nor was it a desperate facade. It was the calm assurance of someone holding a trump card, a hand so meticulously played that its existence was an enigma to everyone but him. He pictured a single chess piece being moved silently across a board, a strategic maneuver hidden in plain sight. Silas thought he had won the game. He had merely secured a temporary advantage in a much larger, far more intricate match, one Kalen had been planning for, patiently, relentlessly, for years. Silas had his public spectacle. Kalen had his silent truth. And truth, he had learned, always finds its way to the surface, especially when guided by a hand that understood the art of the long game. This wasn't just about reclaiming what was his, it was about demonstrating that true power lay not in what one took, but in what one built, and how one rebuilt after everything had been stripped away. The public triumph was a mirage, Kalen's private, strategic intent was the true reality. To understand the silence of that moment, one must first understand the cacophony that preceded it. Kalen's journey began with an unwavering belief in a better future, specifically, a future powered by sustainable energy. From his early 20s, he had been obsessed with the concept of energy independence, envisioning a world where clean power was accessible and affordable for everyone. He poured his life savings, his entire youth, into Viridian Solutions, a startup dedicated to revolutionary, low-cost solar and wind hybrid systems. The modest, cluttered garage office, illuminated by the harsh glow of a single desk lamp, was his world. Early prototypes, cobbled together from scavenged parts and cutting-edge components, filled every available surface. It wasn't just a business, it was his passion, his purpose, the very core of his being. He worked 18-hour days, fueled by instant coffee and an unshakable vision. He lived frugally, sacrificing vacations, social life, personal relationships, everything, to ensure Viridian had the best chance at success. He was driven by an almost childlike wonder at the possibilities of renewable energy, combined with the fierce determination of an engineer dedicated to solving real-world problems. The excitement of discovery, the thrill of seeing a prototype come to life, was his only reward in those early days. Then came Silas Thorne. He was introduced to Kalin through a mutual acquaintance at a small industry expo, hailed as a financial wizard with connections that could catapult Viridian to the next level. Silas exuded an effortless charm, a magnetic presence that drew people in. He was articulate, impeccably dressed, and utterly convincing. He painted a picture of shared ambition, of a partnership built on mutual trust and groundbreaking innovation, complementing Kalin's technical prowess with his own business acumen. Kalin was, admittedly, naive. His focus was purely on the technology, on solving the energy crisis, on bringing Viridian's revolutionary systems to the world. Silas, he soon learned, focused on power, on control, and most importantly, on wealth. While Kalin was meticulously refining algorithms for energy capture and storage, Silas was meticulously cultivating relationships with influential figures, subtly positioning himself as the driving force behind Viridian's burgeoning success. The cracks in their partnership began subtly. A missed payment here, an opaque financial report there, decisions made behind Kalin's back regarding crucial supply chains or investor agreements. Silas, with his silver tongue, always had a plausible explanation. He would dismiss Kalin's concerns with a smooth smile, a reassuring pat on the shoulder, always managing to turn the tables, making Kalin doubt his own judgment. Just focus on the tech, Kalin, Silas would often say, I'll handle the messy business side. But something in Kalin's gut, a quiet, persistent whisper, told him otherwise. It was a slow, agonizing realization that the man he trusted was systematically dismantling his life's work. He began to document everything. Every email, every meeting minute, every financial transaction, every verbal agreement. He started scanning physical documents, logging digital communications, creating a meticulously organized, encrypted digital archive. It was a shadow ledger of the true state of Viridian, and more importantly, of Silas's increasingly brazen maneuvers. This wasn't a sudden burst of suspicion, it was a creeping dread, a slow burn of betrayal that forced Kalin to become a silent observer and meticulous record-keeper of his own undoing. He was preparing for a legal battle, a fight to reclaim his rights, not yet for a total annihilation. The full extent of Silas's treachery came to light in a devastating board meeting. The atmosphere was tense, the air thick with unspoken accusations. Silas, surrounded by a phalanx of lawyers and newly appointed board members loyal only to him, delivered the final blow. He had systematically diluted Kalin's shares through a series of complex, fraudulent capital raises, manipulated the legal framework of the company, and, through a web of shell corporations and illicit transactions, siphoned off Viridian's assets, leaving Kalin with nothing but debt and a ruined reputation. With a smug smile, Silas accused Kalin of mismanagement, of incompetence, even of embezzlement, projecting his own crimes onto his victim. Kalin was legally removed from the company he founded, stripped of his intellectual property, his patents, his very name attached to his own innovation. He was escorted out of the building, the hushed whispers of former colleagues following him like a funeral dirge. His apartment was evicted, his bank accounts frozen, his credit score obliterated. Silas wanted him not just financially ruined, but utterly broken, professionally and personally. He wanted Kalin to be a cautionary tale, a ghost. But Silas made one critical error. He underestimated the resilience of a man who had dedicated his life to building something from nothing. He thought he had taken everything. He hadn't touched Kalin's mind, nor had he found the one thing Kalin held dearest, his meticulously assembled truth. A determined glint in Kalin's eye, though faint, spoke volumes of his unbroken spirit. Kalin's secret weapon wasn't a singular piece of information, but a multifaceted strategy born from foresight and a deep understanding of human nature. Long before the final blow, a quiet voice within him had urged caution. He had begun cultivating relationships with ethical professionals, a brilliant forensic accountant named Dr. Eris Thorne, no relation to Silas, whose reputation for untangling complex financial frauds was legendary. Dr. Thorne, a woman of quiet intensity and piercing intellect, had been an early admirer of Viridian's technology and had subtly warned Kalen about the dangers of unchecked financial power. He had also connected with a cybersecurity expert known only as Cypher, a recluse with an uncanny ability to navigate the darkest corners of the digital world, whose skills Kalen had encountered through a chance online forum. And crucially, he had fostered a network of disillusioned former employees who had witnessed Silas's escalating abuses, the casual cruelty, the ethical compromises, the blatant disregard for Kalen's foundational values. His digital archive was the skeleton, but these individuals were the muscles and sinews of his counteroffensive. While Silas was busy consolidating his stolen empire, Kalen was quietly building a parallel one, an empire of undeniable facts, irrefutable evidence, and unshakable alliances. Every late night spent hunched over his laptop in a small, rented room, illuminated only by the screen, every cancelled social event, every penny saved, wasn't just for Viridian's success, but for the contingency plan, for the war he subconsciously knew was coming. He spent his days meticulously analyzing Silas's public moves, cross-referencing them with his hidden data, identifying vulnerabilities, and anticipating Silas's next move. He was not despairing, but intensely focused, building a new network, a new foundation. Kalen's quiet comeback wasn't a reactive burst of anger, it was a strategic masterpiece, years in the making. For 2 long years, Kalen lived in the shadows. He operated from a co-working space, then a small, legitimate office, always discreet, always observant. To the outside world, he was a cautionary tale, a failed entrepreneur, perhaps even a disgraced one. Silas, meanwhile, soared. He rebranded Viridian Solutions as Apex Innovations, expanded aggressively, and swallowed smaller competitors, all built on the stolen technology and the fraudulent financial structures he had perfected. His public persona was impeccable, the self-made billionaire, the industry disruptor, the darling of the financial press. He reveled in the adoration, convinced that Kalen Vance was a forgotten footnote, a ghost from a past he had successfully buried. And that, precisely, was Silas's undoing. His arrogance rendered him blind, deaf, and utterly complacent. Kalen watched him from the periphery, a silent shadow, noting Silas's increasingly lavish settings, his overconfident pronouncements, his brash decisions. While Silas flaunted his ill-gotten gains, Kalen was meticulously weaving a web. His first step was to validate every piece of information he had. Dr. Thorne, with her unparalleled expertise in forensic accounting, helped him trace every illicit transaction, every hidden asset, every manipulated balance sheet that Silas had cunningly disguised across multiple jurisdictions. Cypher, the cybersecurity phantom, helped Kalen expose the digital breadcrumbs Silas had carelessly left behind, the encrypted communications, the server logs, the backdoors into his own systems that even Silas himself seemed to have forgotten. They worked in tandem, Kalen's analytical mind guiding their efforts, digitally reconstructing complex financial flows, mapping out shell companies, identifying specific fraudulent transactions. They built an undeniable, interconnected tapestry of fraud, layer by intricate layer. Kalen might subtly feed anonymous tips to regulatory bodies or financial journalists, planting seeds of doubt without revealing his hand, watching Silas from afar as he made more extravagant purchases, took bigger risks. Kalen's strategy wasn't about a sudden, explosive revelation. It was about surgical precision, a slow-motion implosion. He understood the Zygarnik effect, the human tendency to remember unfinished tasks more than completed ones. So, he initiated several unfinished tasks for Silas. Anonymous tips to minor financial bloggers, seemingly random questions posed by concerned investors at industry conferences about Apex's unusually rapid growth, subtle nudges to regulatory bodies regarding Apex's aggressive expansion and opaque accounting practices. None of these were direct accusations from Kalen. They were carefully planted seeds of suspicion, designed to force Silas to react, to make mistakes, to expose more of his vulnerabilities as he scrambled to address these small, persistent irritants. He dismissed them as minor annoyances, the price of doing business at his level. He attributed them to jealous competitors, never to the ghost of Kalen Vance, who he presumed was utterly crushed and forgotten. Kalen didn't rush. He let Silas dig his own grave deeper, orchestrating a subtle market shift or a minor regulatory inquiry that nudged Silas into a corner without him realizing Kalen's hand. Each time Silas reacted, he tightened the noose around his own neck. He became more defensive, more reckless, his pronouncements more arrogant. He started cutting corners, making bigger, riskier bets to maintain his inflated image, oblivious to the fact that every move was being documented, cross-referenced, and used against him. Kalen's team wasn't just gathering financial evidence. They were also meticulously documenting his ethical lapses, the poor treatment of employees who dared to question his methods, the environmental shortcuts taken with the sustainable technology that compromised its integrity, the intimidation tactics used against former partners and even low-level staff. Kalen assembled a dossier, thick and meticulously organized, which looked extremely damning. It was not just a financial case, it was a character assassination by truth, a comprehensive narrative of a man utterly devoid of integrity, driven by an insatiable greed. The quietness of Kalen's operation amplified its potency. There was no public outcry, no dramatic pronouncements, just the silent, relentless click of data being compiled, strategies being refined, and the inevitable moment drawing closer. Silas's triumph felt so complete, so unassailable, that he never once looked over his shoulder. And that was exactly what Kalen counted on. The stage was set. Not just for Silas's supposed crowning achievement, but for the unraveling of his entire empire. He had convened a global energy summit, securing a multi-billion-dollar deal that would cement Apex Innovations, and by extension, Silas Thorne, as an untouchable force in the sustainable energy sector. The contract lay on the polished mahogany table, awaiting his signature. The world's media was present, anticipating the next triumphant headline, their cameras flashing, capturing every angle of Silas's self-congratulatory smile. And in that moment, as Silas reached for the pen, confident in his untouchable power, Kalen Vance made his move. He didn't burst through the doors in a rage. He didn't shout or accuse. Kalen simply walked, calmly and deliberately, from the back of the room, through the stunned silence that followed his unexpected appearance. A ripple of confusion went through the audience, a collective murmuring of, "Who is that, and is that Kalen Vance?" Security guards, caught off guard by his composed demeanor and the sheer unlikeliness of his presence, hesitated, unsure how to react to this unexpected, yet non-aggressive intrusion. Silas's face, initially a mask of irritation at the interruption, slowly transformed into one of dawning horror as he recognized Kalen. His eyes widened, a flicker of raw fear cutting through his usual arrogance. He knew, instinctively, that Kalen wasn't there for small talk. He knew, deep down, that the ghost had returned, and this time, it carried more than just memories. Kalen held a sleek, dark tablet and a slim, encrypted USB drive, symbols of the silent truth he carried. Kalen walked onto the stage, deliberately ignoring Silas's frantic gestures and his now pale face. His gaze swept across the room, meeting the eyes of the global investors, the media, the dignitaries. His voice, though not loud, carried absolute conviction, reaching every ear in the hushed auditorium. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "Silas Thorne is about to sign a contract that will secure his legacy. But it's a legacy built on a foundation of lies, fraud, and theft. The company he leads, Apex Innovations, is nothing more than a meticulously constructed facade, a phantom built on stolen dreams and shattered trust." As he spoke, Kalen plugged his encrypted USB drive into the main presentation system. The screen behind Silas, which moments ago displayed Apex Innovations' triumphant logo, dissolved into a complex, color-coded diagram. It showed the true, intricate web of shell companies, offshore accounts, and manipulated assets. Every transaction was meticulously detailed, every fraudulent signature highlighted, every illicit transfer clearly traceable, all cross-referenced with public filings and internal documents. This, Kalin stated, gesturing to the overwhelming data on screen, is the true history of Apex Innovations. This is the intellectual property stolen from Viridian Solutions, Kalin's company. These are the patents Silas Thorne illegally claimed as his own. He displayed side-by-side comparisons of his original schematics for the hybrid energy system and the slightly modified, yet fundamentally identical, designs Apex had been marketing. The evidence was irrefutable, undeniable even to the most skeptical eye. And these, Kalin continued, navigating to another section of the presentation, are the audited financial records, the hidden accounts, the tax evasion schemes, and the outright embezzlement that built this empire. Silas, now a sweaty, trembling mess, his composure utterly shattered, tried to shout, to deny, to dismiss Kalin as a madman. But his voice was lost in the stunned silence of the room, punctuated by gasps and murmurs of disbelief. Some of the investors, recognizing their own potential exposure and the catastrophic implications of this revelation, began to pull out their phones, frantically calling their legal teams. Guards moved to restrain Kalin, but influential figures in the audience, now captivated by the unfolding drama, motioned for them to stop, eager to see the truth fully revealed. The carefully constructed image of Silas Thorne, the visionary, shattered into a million pieces. The truth, meticulously preserved and powerfully presented, had finally found its moment to shine. The aftermath was immediate and devastating. The multi-billion-dollar deal, seconds from being finalized, collapsed. The room erupted into a frenzy of questions, accusations, and desperate phone calls. Legal teams from the acquiring conglomerate were already huddling, their faces grim, realizing the colossal liability they had narrowly avoided. Silas Thorne, once the epitome of confidence, was reduced to a pathetic figure, surrounded by his own crumbling legal team, who now looked at him with disgust rather than deference. His empire, built on sand and lies, began to wash away with the tide of undeniable truth. Kalin stood calmly on stage, allowing the evidence to speak for itself. Media swarmed him, but he gave only a brief, composed statement, directing them to the evidence presented. The news traveled like wildfire. Within hours, financial regulators across multiple continents launched full-scale investigations into Apex Innovations. Lawsuits from disillusioned investors, former employees, and defrauded partners piled up against Silas. His carefully cultivated public image disintegrated, replaced by headlines of betrayal, greed, and corporate malfeasance. News headlines flashed across screens: Apex Innovation Scandal, CEO Silas Thorne indicted, massive fraud uncovered. The media, initially captivated by his success story, now voraciously reported on his spectacular downfall. People who had once admired him, who had been swayed by his charm, expressed shock and a profound sense of betrayal. Many of his closest associates, seeing the writing on the wall, quickly distanced themselves, some even coming forward to corroborate Kalin's claims, providing further damning evidence against Silas. His properties were being seized, his image irrevocably tarnished. Silas found himself utterly isolated. His vast network of friends and allies evaporated overnight, leaving him alone in his lavish but now empty mansion, his phone ringing unanswered, his desperate calls unreturned. The lavish lifestyle he had so proudly displayed was now being systematically dismantled, his assets frozen and seized to compensate the victims of his fraud. The man who had walked over everyone to reach the top now had nowhere left to stand. The legal consequences were swift and severe. Indictments for fraud, embezzlement, and intellectual property theft quickly followed. He faced not just financial ruin, but the very real prospect of a long prison sentence. The sound of a gavel, the click of handcuffs, his freedom was gone. The silence of his downfall was deafening, a stark contrast to the celebratory cheers he had enjoyed just hours before. While Silas's world collapsed around him, a different kind of news began to emerge for Kalin. His name was cleared. His intellectual property was rightfully restored. The path to justice, though long and arduous, had finally reached its destination. It has been 5 years since that pivotal day. The echoes of Silas Thorne's empire are mere whispers in the financial world, a cautionary tale taught in business ethics classes. As for Silas himself, he served his time, emerging from prison a shadow of his former self, without a penny to his name, and utterly alone. His charisma, once his greatest asset, had become his greatest liability, revealed as nothing more than a thin veneer over a core of pure avarice. His reputation was irrevocably shattered, his name forever synonymous with deceit. Kalen's path, however, took a different turn. With his name cleared and his intellectual property returned, he wasn't interested in reclaiming the shell of Apex Innovations. He started anew, building Viridian reborn from the ground up, with a team of individuals who shared his passion for integrity and innovation. The office is bright, collaborative, filled with passionate people, a stark contrast to the cold, corporate environment of Apex. Kalen is visibly content, no longer just surviving, but truly flourishing. He's more confident, yet still humble. They didn't just rebuild the technology, they rebuilt the culture, one founded on transparency, ethical practices, and genuine collaboration. Their success today is not measured in stolen billions, but in the tangible impact of their sustainable energy solutions and the unwavering trust of their partners and employees. Kalen walks through his new company, engaging with employees, smiling genuinely, looking at a solar panel or a wind turbine prototype with quiet pride. He's built something lasting and truly innovative, not just for personal gain, but for the greater good. The bitter taste of betrayal has long faded, replaced by the sweet satisfaction of creating something truly meaningful and enduring. What Kalen learned from this ordeal is profound. True resilience isn't about how loudly one fights, but how quietly and meticulously one rebuilds. Justice may be slow, but it is rarely denied to those who play the long game with integrity and unwavering conviction. One must learn to trust one's instincts. Document everything. And remember that while some may seek to take shortcuts to the top, real, lasting success is always built on the bedrock of honesty, hard work, and genuine value. Silas chose the path of quick riches and deceit, and it ultimately led to his ruin. Kalen chose the path of patient reconstruction and unwavering principle, and it led him to peace, purpose, and a success far greater than mere wealth could ever define. He stands overlooking a vibrant city skyline, perhaps with one of his new energy solutions visible in the distance, a sense of peace and profound wisdom emanating from him. In the end, what truly matters isn't the size of a man's fortune, but the strength of his character. Because character, unlike stolen wealth, can never be taken from him. It is the one thing he builds that no one can ever truly bankrupt. Kalen Vance's story is a powerful reminder that even in the face of the darkest betrayal, resilience and strategy can lead to ultimate triumph. If a journey of quiet comeback and poetic justice, like this one, captivates you, then you will find many more compelling narratives of resilience, revenge, and life lessons right here on our channel. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next story of unbelievable twists and turns. We bring you tales of real-life struggles, unexpected victories, and the enduring power of the human spirit. And we love hearing from you. Kalen faced unthinkable betrayal and public humiliation. He chose a path of quiet, strategic comeback instead of immediate, explosive confrontation. This raises a crucial question. If you found yourself facing such profound ingratitude and theft from someone you trusted, what would your first step be? Would you seek immediate revenge, or would you, like Kalen, choose the quiet, long game? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. We read every one of them. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.